Hey guys, here is your study video for the quiz on Friday. This is over rational expressions, so we are going to simplify, multiply, divide, add, and subtract with rational expressions. All right, first step, number one, it's asking you just to list the excluded values. So remember, excluded values, all we care about is the denominator. So I'm only looking right here and right here. It's all that matters, okay? So what could I plug in for y to make this entire thing 0? Well, if y equals to 0, then my entire denominator here is 0. So y cannot equal to 0. Second denominator, x. If x is 0, then that will make that denominator equal to 0, which is undefined, and we can't have. So for number one, both y and x cannot be equal to 0. All right, number two, same thing. We just want the excluded values. So we're only looking at our denominator. Let's go ahead and factor this one out. So we have to think what multiplies to give us negative 27, that adds to give negative 6. That is going to be negative 9 and positive 3. So these are my denominators, my factors in my denominator. So I have to think, okay, what can make this factor 0? Well, if x was 9, that would be 0, so x cannot be 9. And then this piece, x cannot be negative 3. All right. Number 3, notice on number 3, we have a division symbol. So what does that mean? It means I need to look at both pieces of our second fraction, because if I were to actually solve this, my first step would be to flip this guy. So that means both pieces are going to eventually be in the denominator. So I have to make sure nothing makes any piece over here 0. Just like before, we are going to factor first. So my first numerator, I need to know what multiplies to give me 24, but adds to give me negative 14. All right, that is going to be x minus 8 and x minus 3. And we're going to divide by this numerator. We're going to factor that to be x plus 3, x plus 8, and our denominator is x minus 2. All right, so remember, domain restrictions. I'm looking at both denominators and also this numerator, because if I were to actually solve, I would have to flip this guy upside down, and this would be in the denominator. So right here, x cannot equal 8 or positive 3. That would make each of those 0, so I can't be 8, I can't be 3. In this denominator, x cannot be 2. I have to also look up top. Here, x cannot be negative 3 or negative 8. Okay, so this one actually had 5 excluded values. X cannot equal any of those things, or else our problem would be undefined. All right, last one when it comes to excluded values. Again, we are looking at our denominators. This is the multiplication problem, so I don't have to look anywhere else besides the denominators. Let's go ahead and factor each piece. Since we're doing excluded values, honestly, this numerator doesn't matter. I'm just going to write it. I don't have to factor it. Our denominator, though, right here, I see I can take an x out of both. I'm left with x minus 2. My other side, multiplies to give me 16, adds to give me 10. That is going to be 8 and 2. So we have x plus 8 and x plus 2. Our domain restrictions right here, x cannot be 0. This piece tells me x cannot be 2. Here, x cannot be negative 8. Here, x cannot be negative 2. Okay, if x equals any of these values, it's going to make some piece in my denominator 0, which would make it undefined. All right, so that is all the excluded values. We're going to move on to simplifying. All right, starting with our multiplying and dividing. Right here, number 5. Number 5 is I have a monomial for every numerator and every denominator. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to multiply straight across, and then I'm going to simplify afterwards. If you want to simplify now, and then multiply across, you can do that too. You should end up getting the same thing that I do. I'm going to go straight across though. 3 times 8 is 24. X squared times x to the 4th gives me x to the 6th because we add our exponents. Down here, 6 and 4 give me 24. Remember that exponent right here is a 1. This will give me x to the 4th. All right, now I can simplify. I see 24 over 24. All right, cancel that away. When I have two like bases, I'm going to subtract their denominator, their exponents. So I'm going to do 6 minus 4. So this whole thing is just equal to x squared. Right. My excluded values for this problem here, x is not allowed to equal 0. All right. Number 6, it's just one fraction, but they're both polynomials that I have to factor. So I'm going to factor my numerator first. It's going to factor to give me x plus 3 and x plus 1. Our denominator here is going to factor to be x minus 9, x plus 3. Right here, I can go ahead and tell you that x cannot equal 9 or negative 3. That would make a piece of my denominator 0. All right, now let's simplify. I see that I have an x plus 3 in the numerator and denominator, so those cancel. So we are left with just x plus 1 over x minus 9 as our answer for that. All right, number 7. This is a multiplying problem. I can go ahead and tell you that my excluded values right here, x cannot equal 1. Right here, x cannot equal 0. So there's my excluded values. Let's solve. Let's see here. I can't factor anything except for this. And this lovely guy, we're going to have to actually factor by grouping. All right, so let's take him right here. 3x squared plus x minus 4. Remember, we multiply 3 and negative 4 together to give me negative 12. So what multiplies to give me negative 12? That adds together to give me that positive 1x. All right, well, it looks like we are going to need a 3 and a 4. We will need a positive 4 and a negative 3. So negative 3 times positive 4, negative 12. Negative 3 plus 4 gives me positive 1. Remember, we use these to split this middle piece. So now we have 3x squared. This is going to break apart into minus 3x plus 4x and then minus 4. So remember, this got split up. Whole point now is to factor by grouping, so we do half and half. Right here, what can I take out of 3x squared and negative 3x? Well, I can take out a 3 and an x out. I'm left with x minus 1 on the inside. Over here, 4x and negative 4. I can take out a positive 4, and I'm again left with x minus 1. Remember, the whole point of factor by grouping is to make sure these two are the same thing. All right. All right, the factors that got brought out become a factor together. And then we have x minus 1. All right, so all that work was to factor this numerator. All right, so let's rewrite it. Here we go. We have 2 over x minus 1 times, here we go, 3x plus 4 times x minus 1 all over x. All right, well, it's a good thing we did that because, look, we have a common factor. So those get to cancel. We're left with 2 times 3x plus 4 all over x. Remember, you do not have to distribute. You can leave this answer just the way it is. If you really want to multiply, go for it, but I'm not going to make you do that on the quiz on Friday. All right? Okay, moving on to number 8. Number 8 is a division problem, so we have to flip my second fraction first. And we have 4 pieces that we get to factor. So this is going to be a whole lot of factoring. All right, I'm going to do 2 steps in 1. I'm going to factor and flip all together. So first numerator, when I factor that, Remember, we need numbers to multiply to give me negative 21, but add to give me negative 4. So that's going to be a negative 7 and a positive 3. Our denominator right here multiplies to give me 24, adds to give me negative 14. That is going to be negative 12 and negative 2. All right, I'm going to multiply. Remember, we get to flip these two. So this is my new numerator. So what multiplies to give me negative 16, but adds to give me 6? That is going to be x plus 8 and x minus 2. This now becomes our new denominator. What multiplies to give me 24, but adds to give me 11? That is going to be positive 8 and positive 3. Okay, a lot of factoring. But I bet you we can cancel stuff out as well. So I see x minus 2 gets to cancel. I see x plus 3 gets to cancel. And look at that. And x plus 8. So almost everything cancels out. I'm only left with x minus 7 over x minus 12 as my final answer. All right. Excluded values here. There's a lot of them. Remember, everything that was in the denominator. So that includes this, all of this, and all of this. Remember, this started off in my denominator in the beginning. So here, x cannot be 12. That would make that piece 0. Here, it can't be 2. Here, it cannot be negative 8. Here, it cannot be negative 3. Looking up top, I can't have negative 8. I already have that listed, though. And I can't be 2. I already have that. So those are our excluded values for that one. All right. Number 9. So now we're getting into the adding and subtracting piece. You want your denominators to be the same, and if they're not, you have to make them the same. So looking right here, these are already the same. Okay. When they're the same, you can also go ahead and state your excluded value. So here, x cannot be 1, because that would make both of those equal to 0. All right, we're the same, so I don't have to do anything to my denominator anymore. I get to skip straight to combining like terms in my numerators. So I have x plus 3x is 4x, and then 3 plus negative 4 is the same thing as saying 3 minus 4, which is negative 1. And remember, x minus 1, once it's the same, you don't change it. Okay? The only time you would change it is at the very end if you could cancel something out. But this one I cannot. All right, number 10, we are adding. Denominators are not the same, so let's go ahead and factor this one. This factors to be x minus 5 and x plus 4. So I see that they both share x minus 5, but this fraction is missing the x plus 4. So I'm going to multiply my denominator by x plus 4. We can physically see that now they're the same. That means I have to also multiply my numerator by x plus 4. Okay. Common denominator, go ahead and get my excluded values. I can't have 5 or negative 4. That would make that equal to 0. All right, here we go. First numerator does not change. Nothing got multiplied. So I'm going to keep 2x minus 13 just the way it is. Okay, here though, I get to distribute my 3 to both x and 4. So that becomes positive 3x and positive 12. Let's combine like terms. I see 2 plus 3x gives me 5x. And then negative 13, excuse me, plus 12 gives me negative 1. So there's my new numerator. Remember, our denominator is x minus 5 and x plus 4. All right, 11, we are subtracting. So remember, we do have one extra step. When we are subtracting, we have to actually distribute the minus sign to both pieces of our numerator. So when I distribute that minus sign, this is now going to be x minus 8 over x minus 5 plus negative 3x minus 4 over x minus 5. All right, check out my denominators. They are the same. So I can go ahead and tell you x is not allowed to equal 5. Since they're the same, I can also just go ahead and combine like terms across the top. So here we go. X minus 3x is equal to negative 2x. Negative 8 minus 4 gives me negative 12. And this is all over x minus 5. So my top, I can factor out a 2. So if I take 2 out, or negative 2 even, I'm left with x plus 6 over x minus 5. Now, if I could cancel things out, I would, but I can't. So honestly, I would accept either one of these as the final answer. I don't care which one you choose. Remember, it's always a great idea to factor in the end if you can, in case you are able to cancel something out. This one, we just weren't able to. All right, last one. Here we go. We are subtracting. My denominators are not the same, but before I mess with these at all, I'm going to go ahead and distribute my negative sign. So when I do that, it only goes to this 3. So I get to do 8 plus negative 3. All right, let's take care of these. All right, there's nothing in common here. So I'm actually going to have to take x plus 3 and multiply it by x minus 4. Doing it to my denominator, I must also do it to my numerator. All right, and then over here, x minus 4, I need to multiply by x plus 3. Okay, so now we can see that our denominators are the exact same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and list my excluded values. X can't be 4 or negative 3. Get that out of the way, right? Okay, I need to simplify both of these numerators. Let's do this one first. 8 times x gives me 8x. And then 8 times negative 4 gives me negative 32. Right? Our other numerator, negative 3 times x gives me negative 3x. Negative 3 times 3 gives me negative 9. Okay, let's combine like terms. 8 minus 3 gives me 5x. Negative 32 minus 9 actually gives me negative 41. All over x minus 4 and x plus 3. I can't factor anything out of my numerator, so our problem is done. All right? So if you have any questions, guys, you can message me through Remind 101 Thursday night. If I don't respond to you, it's because I don't have service where we are, but I will try my best. And good luck on your quiz on Friday. You can do it.